houseplant tour, guys. Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are going to do our houseplant tour fall edition. I normally like to do a fall houseplant tour to give you also an idea of how much my plants have grown during the growing season, which is obviously this past spring and summer. And today we're going to do my bedroom, and that's because next weekend I'm actually going to rearrange my room and do a bit of a makeover. I'm finally going to install some floating shelves to add more space, so that way you can get more plants. And I'm also going to get a couple of greenhouse cabinets that I've been eyeing at IKEA, so that way we're gonna put that together, move a lot of the plants. But obviously before we do that, I want you guys to take a look at the plants I currently have right now in my bedroom, the way it's set up, but more importantly of how much some of them have grown this season. So we're gonna start at this corner where I have my ficus and this ladder shelf right here, and then we're gonna move across the room where I have mostly all my Hoyas, a few of my cacti, and then we'll go in that corner where I have a few plants, and then we'll finish off at this side where I have another ladder shelf along with the greenhouse where I have a few of my gems that I have growing in there. So without further ado, let's get started. Now, I might not be able to remember a few of these names, so we're just gonna put a title here, but we're gonna start here at the corner with all my Ficus Elasticas. For those of you guys who's been following me for a while, you know I love Ficus Elasticas. They are some of my favorite houseplants, and I have three in this corner. I have the Ficus Teneki, which is my tallest one right now, the Ficus Burgundy, which is a classic, and then I have my Ficus Ruby. All three of these have grown quite a bit this past summer, constantly putting out new leaves, and this one has grown quite a bit. So if you guys check out my last houseplant tour bedroom edition, which I did earlier in the year, which was kind of my comeback when I took a bit of a hiatus off YouTube, you can then get a reference of how big this guy was back then, but definitely grew quite a bit. And you guys can see pretty much where it started to grow this year when you look at the main stem. Some of them are a little bit more branch-like and callous quite a bit, while there's a lot more of the fresh green type of stem, which is up here. So this is pretty much the growth that took place over the summer. And same thing with my Ficus Teneki. You guys know I love the Ficus Teneki. It is truly one of my favorite houseplants, if not probably definitely in the top 10. But let's see if I can pick this guy up. But you guys can see how beautiful this plant is, and just that variegation and just all of this new leaves that's grown. They're massive, they're huge. So when I first got this one, it was originally a single stem, and I wanted to grow it as a single stem until it gets about maybe my height, and then we'll probably cut it off to try and get it to branch out. But definitely a beautiful and one of my favorite houseplants. Next to that one, you'll see the very classic, very reliable Ficus Elastica Burgundy. I love the deep green foliage. This is a bit more of a bush or shrub style, and it's growing quite a bit. I remember when I first got this guy maybe about over 2 years ago, it was pretty much a small in a 6-inch container. Now it's in a massive 10-inch container, and it continues to grow and put out some new leaves. Now we're gonna move on to this ladder shelf where I mostly have a lot of my hanging plants. I got my neon pothos here, which is honestly one of my favorite houseplants. I feel like I'm gonna say that throughout this entire houseplant tour, that this is my favorite houseplant, because the reality is they're all my favorites. I'm just kidding, but this neon pothos is truly stunning. It's trailed so beautifully, and the one thing I noticed about this one, it has different shades of neon green. The more mature and older leaves are a little bit more darker, while the newer vines and growth are a little bit more of that neon and brighter color. But I've had this one for probably over 2 years. Started off as a small 4-inch container, and obviously has kind of grown to this beast. Repotted a few times. I've done propagation of this a few times, so it just continues to grow. And the cool thing about this plant is I actually featured this guy in my Instagram flash and show. If you guys haven't seen that one, be sure to follow me and my crazy plant life. But it is such a beautiful plant that I wish someone would actually make a scarf out of, like a neon pothos. I'm just kidding, but seriously, it is a beauty. I mean, check how massive this guy is. It's so beautiful, and truly one of my favorite pothos right now. This one and probably the golden pothos that's downstairs that I have climbing up. I am thinking of cutting this guy a bit, propagating it again, and starting maybe like a climbing neon pothos, because I think that would look really cool. You have here my snake plant, my samurai, and then my little peperomia parallel. Surprisingly, it is a slow grower, but I'm just happy that it's starting to thrive again, because it did drop a few of the leaves. I do like the pattern on this particular peperomia and the way the texture of the leaf are. And below that is, you'll see my jade satin syndapsis, which is trailing beautifully. This was a slow grower at one point, but I find that once syndapsis kind of starts trailing, they just take off, and this is pretty much what it did. It took off. I actually repotted these guys and split them into two, so I have now 2 jade satin syndapsis. This is more of that bigger leaves. You guys can see how beautiful the foliage on this guy is. But yeah, definitely one of my favorite Scindapsus. Next to it is my Scindapsus Silvery Ann, and this is a new plant that I added this summer. Beautiful. I love the variegation on this one, the pattern. You can just see all those silver foliage on it. And next to that one, you'll find this Dischidia. I forgot exactly the name of this one, but it has grown quite a bit and it's still been in its original potting medium, which is sphagnum moss. And below that one, you'll see this Snow Queen or Marble Queen pothos. If you guys remember my little trip to IKEA where we did a shopping challenge, this was that pothos that we debated back and forth for a while before we actually picked the right one. And you guys can still see it has a bit of that white variegation on it, but the new growth is starting to become a little bit more of that yellow color, similar to Marble Queen. This does need watering. You guys can tell the leaves are a bit droopy. They're not as perked up. And the pot is really light, so definitely got to make sure I water this guy today. And below that one, you'll then see a couple Hoyas here. I have this Engleriana, which is growing so massively and so long right now. And then you have my Carrie right here, along with my Ovavada. And Hoyas, man, these guys grew quite a bit this summer for me. Out of nowhere, they are just gonna show some leaves, and I'm always surprised at like, where did you come from? But yeah, I have the Carrie right there, and I potted the Ovavada together, the splash, so it looks kind of cool. I might put a trellis on this one to try and help it grow a little bit more upright. But yeah, so those are the plants that's here on this shelf, along with my Ficus Elasticas in this corner. We'll now go across the room. We'll check out a few more Hoyas, some cacti, and a few of my unique plants, like the Stephania racta and Phyllanthus mirabilis. All right, guys, so on this side, you're gonna see a few of my other Hoyas. We'll start off with this Hoya macrophylla. You probably didn't see this at the last Houseplant Tour bedroom edition. That's because this was actually in my office growing in there, and during the pandemic, or at the height of it, I brought it home because I was worried no one's gonna care for it. And since I brought it home, it is thriving like crazy. Shout out a lot of new growth that you guys can see right here, and a lot of variegation and different shades of color on its leaf. You can see this one is pure yellow right now, and there's some shades of red, which is caused pretty much by sun stress because this is really close to my south-facing window that you guys can see right here. Next to that one is my Hoya densifolia, and you guys can also see right here, growing a lot of new leaves as well. Next to that one is another Hoya. It is the Parasitica, and this one surprised me from all the Hoyas I have, because I remember this one when I first got it, it didn't look really good. It only had like 3 or 4 leaves, and the variegation was kind of messy, and it was really ugly. And then out of nowhere this summer, it shot out this new growth and this new vine, and then it started to produce these beautiful shiny leaves, and the speckles or the variegation or the splash on it seems to be so perfect. So I don't know what happened. It honestly became like, you know, the ugly duckling that turned into like a beautiful swan, because it is a beautiful Hoya now that I look at it again. And then next to that one, you'll see this Phyllanthus mirabilis, which is one of my favorite houseplants right now. This guy is so cool because the wings on this one, it's called the dragon wings, or the leaves on this guy like folds up during the nighttime and then folds down during the day. And it has this caudex base. It sprouted quite a bit this summer after I waking it up because it was dormant. And then these beautiful leaves that I had on it, I overwatered it, it started to drop, started to fall. And then eventually, you know, it started to grow these new ones. And what I realized then is the structure and the make of this caudex base is once the leaves or the stem falls off, it then starts growing new ones at the top, and that base where they were attached becomes more of the caudex base. So pretty cool structure of this plant, but definitely one of my favorite unique houseplants. Next to that one are 2 new Hoyas I acquired this summer, the Gigas and the Griffin Tie that you guys see right there. And then you have my Achavara, my longest Achavara. I think I've owned this guy for over 3 years. I remember I cut this off during the summer, and it was attached to another mother plant, which is now this one you guys see. It's a mother plant that only had stems because it was bare, the leaves dropped. But baby Achavaras are now growing on it, which is cool, and I like this look. So I'm definitely gonna continue to grow a lot of these Achavaras on this stem. And then with this mother plant, or this new mother plant, it's obviously becoming leggy. So I think we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna cut this off and then plant it into another pot and then grow that stem or that bare stem into baby Achavaras again. Below that, you're gonna see this Hoya Australis Lisa. It's one of the new Hoyas I acquired this summer as well. Beautiful. And then you have here my string of spades, similar to my string of hearts. It is part of the Serapegii family. It is a Serapegii, but this one is shape of a spade rather than a heart. You have here my string of pearls. Not the most fullest pearls. I've had this one for a while, and I'm not really sure what I'm doing wrong with it. I think I have it too close to the sun because it's not growing as full as what I like it to be. Next to this one, I think is a Peperomia Ripple. I'm not exactly sure if it's a Peperomia, but I think it is. It looks like one. And then behind that is this Aloe Hybrid Pink Blush. You guys can see it has a bit of shades of pink on this particular Hoya. Oh yeah. Aloe. It's an aloe, Christian. Aloe. And then then beside that is this Hoya Crinkle Carnosa 8. And then there's another Hoya right there, which is the Hindu Rope Variegata. Pretty cool, although a slow grower Hoya for me. It is one of my newer Hoyas. And then you have this Dioscora, I think, Elevantes. I don't know. Again, I'll put the name up here, but this is another one of those plants that has a Codex base. I like these types of plants lately. Very, very cool. And then below this shelf, we got the Stephania erecta right there. It's another Codex plant, but it's not growing as much. I got this recently as well. And then you have there my string of hearts, the variegated one. Then next to that one, you're gonna find a few of the Hoyas. I got my Hoya Philippines, which I got a couple of years ago. It finally started to show a bit of new growth and new leaves. But then you have here the Hoya Sunrise and the Vietnam and the Matilde, which I got earlier in the spring. And these guys grew so much this past summer. Look at all these foliage on the Sunrise. This was pretty small and pretty bare when I first got it. This Vietnam has this new vine that shot out. It's now giving me new leaves. And then this Matilde has a lot more new vines, a lot of peduncles. And this actually did bloom for me earlier in the spring. So really excited about these guys and just happy that they are still thriving and doing really, really well. I got this new plant not too long ago. It is my Ficus triangularis variegata, and this was a wish list plant for me this year. So happy to get this. It's still small, but it is producing some new baby leaves, which I'm happy about. Then next to that, you have here my silver dollar vine, and this shot out some new growth out of nowhere. It gave me this new leaf this summer, and then these two new ones on top of it. And I was like so surprised it came out of nowhere, because this is a slow grower. I've had this for almost 3 years now. And for the first 2 years, it literally was only these two vines. And then I also actually cut this guy and stuck it in the soil. And I am now propagating it. So this is that baby one you guys see right there. And really, really cool, really happy about this silver dollar vine. And then you got there some cuttings of my Cissus discolor. Very easy to propagate in water. Just cut single nodes and single leaf and just stick it in water. And then, you know, in a few days, you're actually gonna see some roots there. And then next to these plants, you're gonna see this orchid on my headboard, a few of them. I got one of them to rebloom, which I'm happy about. And the way I get them to rebloom is once the blooms fall off, you kind of just need to cut down the vine to the closest next node, which is what you guys see right there. So I cut that, and then out of nowhere, that node shot out a new stem, and yeah, it's producing new blooms. And I'm happy that they are, you know, because usually when it comes to orchids, I know in the past for me, you know, after the bloom, they just die, and I can never get them to rebloom. So I was happy to see that we got some blooms on this orchid. All right, so those are the plants that you guys see pretty much in this corner. We're now gonna move across the room and check out to see what kind of plants we got going on there. All right, guys, so on my headboard, you're gonna see there my Sansevieria Moonshine. I got this one in the summer. Really cool Sansevieria, actually one of my favorites. I just love the blue tones and the silver shade on it. And then you have there my Anthurium. I forget what this one is called, but this one's not growing for me. I don't know what's wrong with it. It was actually one of my first anthuriums, and it's just not doing well. But next to that one is one of my new favorite plants, the Siltepecana. I repotted this one not too long ago. Beautiful, beautiful plant, and I love how fast growing this one and really easy to care for. Next to that one, you're gonna see my Anthurium clarinervium. This is also one of my favorite anthuriums. Super easy. Out of all the anthuriums or exotic anthuriums out there, I would say this is one of the easier ones. It gave me a lot of new leaves since I got this one earlier in the spring. It gave me this new big one right now that you guys see, and then before that one was this previous one, and both look so amazing, so cool, and it has a couple blooms showing right there. Next to it is one of my newer anthuriums. I got this one from North Shore Tropicals. It is the Vita Refolium, and I love the way this looks. I love the prehistoric vibe it's giving me. And then next to that one is my Dieffenbachia that's making a comeback. This guy was pretty much almost dead earlier this spring, and it was actually closer to my south-facing window, but then I brought it back, and since I brought it back, it started to thrive a little bit better. As long as I water consistently when the soil is dry and not forgetting about it and then watering a whole bunch of it, and it just goes through a period of like inconsistent watering, and sometimes plants don't like that. Next to that one is my Oxalis triangularis, and this guy is a beauty. Look how full he is right now. Has a lot of blooms as well. And the one thing with Oxalis triangularis is sometimes they'll go periods where they're pretty much bare, almost dead, and that's because I obviously sometimes forget to water them. But if you give them a lot of light and then you start watering it consistently, keep that soil moist, they will start to sprout out some new leaves, and that's pretty much what I did with this one. So really happy it bounced back. They're never dead. You think they're dead, but they're really not dead. And that's what I think with most plants, is as long as they have a healthy root system, they're never dead, right? You still have a shot of bringing them back to life. All right, so that's pretty much all the plants on this side of the room. Now we're gonna go across. We'll talk about the plants on that shelf and then finish off in the greenhouse. All right, guys, so on this side of my room, you have here my ladder shelf, which has this marble queen pothos that has this long vine that's draping over the greenhouse. Next to it is one of my newest vining plant, one of my newest favorite vining plant. It is the Cissus, this color. And I love the exotic look that this one gives. All those different shades of green, silver, and purple on the leaf. And then at the back has this deep purple color as well. It is surprisingly a fast-growing vining plant for me, and they just love a lot of bright indirect light. But the one thing with this one, you cannot let the soil dry out in between waterings because they will wither really quickly and they will die, right? So I've learned to make sure to stay on top of my watering when it comes to this plant. Below that is another Scindapsus. I think this is the Greggius, I forget what the name is, but it is a new Scindapsus for me as well. Very small, and the pattern on this one is a little bit more spotty when it comes to the silver variegation. Below that, you're gonna see there one of my first Hoyas, which is the Carnosa Crimson Princess, and then this baby aloe vera that I propagated during the summer. You got their Starfish Sansevieria, and below that, you're actually gonna see this Marble Queen Pothos. This was a cutting I took from the mother plant up here, and it's starting to trail now. Looks beautifully. And then got there a little bit of a goldfish vine cut that I saved from a mother plant that got attacked by mealybugs. So this is my only goldfish vine that I have left. And that's pretty much all the plants that's on this ladder shelf. Yes, there's a lot more room, a lot more space for new plants. So for sure, we're definitely gonna fill this up by the next time we do another houseplant tour. But now we're gonna move on to the greenhouse and check out all the plants that's growing in there. All right, guys, so we're now gonna go through all the plants that's inside this greenhouse. And for the most part, all of them are fairly new for me. I started to acquire a lot of these rare or uncommon anthuriums and philodendrons only this year. And that's because during my first 3 or 4 years, I didn't really have the experience to really take these guys on. In addition, they weren't really as accessible here in Canada, but you know what, this year I said, let me go ahead and take them on. They're beautiful plants, and once you get started with some of these, you just want to keep going and get more. I'm gonna admit, some of them gave me a lot of problems, like this philodendron melanochrysum was a big fussy one for me. But with that said, it did teach me a lot of things, so I'm happy about that whole experience. And that's one thing about plants. Just be aware that when you do get a plant, especially something that you're not familiar with, that you may go through a bit of a crisis mode with them, that you may kill it. But it's okay to kill a plant as long as you're gonna learn something from it, right? So, however, some of these plants are pretty an expensive lesson, so make sure you learn something from it if you're gonna kill an expensive plant. But without further ado, let's get started. So first, you're gonna see here in this corner, this beautiful Anthurium magnificum that I got from North Shore Tropical. It is stunning. It is only a single leaf, but I don't care. I think it's beautiful as a single leaf because of this majestic and huge leaf it's got going on. And then next to that one, you're gonna see this Dorayaki. It is so cute, so adorable. And the one thing about anthuriums, why I love them, is just their pattern on the leaves, the foliage, the crystal veins it's got going on. So this one is no different. It's just a little bit more unique shape. And this one tends to grow upright rather than the leaves kind of facing down or facing forward. And then next to that one, you're gonna see this melanochrysum cutting that I propagated from the melanochrysum plant that I got earlier in the spring. If you guys recall that houseplant haul video, I cried over that plant, but I also cried over it through the summer because it literally dropped its leaves, and I've been cutting and propagating, and this is a result of it. So I'm learning how to propagate these guys, which I'm happy about. And out of that one plant, I think I can get about 10 melanochrysum out of it now. So again, it was a weird experience. It was definitely a good learning lesson for me, but I'm happy I went through it. And then here you're gonna see this Forgetii. Look at this new beautiful leaf that it's showing. It looks like a turtle shell, really cool. And then next to that one, you're gonna see this juvenile queen. I don't know if this is gonna be a dark form or a green form. I think it's gonna be a green form, but it's still a baby one, so we'll see how this one does. And then there you got my crystallinum that I also got earlier in the spring as part of my first rare plant batch that I acquired. And finally, there's a new leaf that's growing, so I'm excited about it. So that's the only growth that's so far that's happened for this plant. Unlike the clarinervium, which gave me 2 new beautiful leaves, because I do find that clarinervium is a lot easier than this crystallinum that you guys see right now. And then in this corner, you're gonna see a few more philodendrons. This is the melanochrysum. That was originally the top that I cut off. I air layered. We'll do a detailed video of how I did that, but you guys can see there's new leaves growing at the top, so I'm gonna cut that off soon, plant it in sphagnum moss, and then start cutting these nodes and start propagating again. Then you have my newest philodendron there, the gloriosum. Beautiful leaf. I'm so happy about this one. And then below that is also this other philodendron, which is a gigas. Didn't grow as much as, say, the clarinervium or even this philodendron melanochrysum, and that's because this got attacked by thrips pretty bad, but now it's showing this new leaf, which I'm happy about. And then next to that one, you're gonna see this philodendron silver sword cutting, and again, this was a plant I acquired in the spring. Similar to the melanochrysum, I overwatered it and pretty much died. All the leaves started to drop, so I started to cut up the nodes, and this is what's left of that plant. It grew this little new vine that came out of this node cutting, and I'm so happy about it. I threw this in a propagation propagation box, and then out of nowhere just shot this new growth. So really happy about that one. Below this shelf, you're gonna see a few more anthuriums here, and in this terracotta pot is actually the mother plant of my melanochrysum. So this is what's left of it. I've been cutting this guy, and you can see there's a little growth point. That's gonna turn into a new vine and hopefully produce some new leaves. And then from there, we can cut this guy, plant it in sphagnum moss, and do the same thing with all those other melanochrysum cuttings you saw. Next to that one is this philodendron micans cuttings that I potted together, and I got these off a trade. So I originally started with this vine, and then someone traded me with these two more vines right now. So I put them all together, and they're now growing. I put these guys in the greenhouse, and since I did that, because of the grow light, all the new leaves are now growing closer together. They're not as leggy, so I'm happy about that one. You got there my philodendron, a Florida ghost, which is so adorable and so cute. I love this particular plant, and I do like shape of a leaf more than variegation, to be honest. But having both the best worlds will be cool, which is the Florida Beauty, but I'm still happy with this Florida Ghost that you guys see right now. And then you got a couple more anthuriums there. You got a silver blush here that's beautiful. I'm propagating this in sphagnum moss, trying to grow the roots a bit more. And then there you got my newest anthurium, which is a crystallinum cross sibling, I think is what's called. And then I got a couple more philodendron brandy back there. This blue oil fern that's growing really well. And then that philodendron, which I don't know the name of it, but I'm gonna put it in the title. And then below that, we got a couple more philodendron brandy. I also put my syngonium wenlendii in this greenhouse because it was struggling quite a bit outside the greenhouse. So I started to put it in there, see if it can help. And it's starting to look a little bit better, but there's still a lot of browning and yellow going on here. All right, guys, so that's pretty much the plants that's inside the greenhouse. And those are the ones that we're gonna move over to a glass greenhouse cabinet style that we found at IKEA that we're gonna put together for our next weekend's room makeover. I'm also going to install a floating shelf above my headboard right there, so that way we can make a lot more space and a lot more organized, which means more plants to add. That I'm excited about. So other than that, hopefully you guys enjoyed this little houseplant tour video, fall edition. Comment below and let me know if there's any plants you guys found interesting, which ones you like, which ones you didn't like. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you guys soon. Peace.